closer over here.
Why don't you move the camera over here?
I should. One of these days. And we're live, Bob. Let's do a little intro.
What?
Intro action?
Intro.
Hello in there! Hey, what's so important? What you got here that's worth living for?
I tend to think of.
And we're back.
Where were we before?
Welcome back to. I guess this is still To Blade.
Yeah.
To Blade. Here again with Judah and Daddy, Daddio, and just thought it'd be interesting to talk briefly about intentional communities, communes. We happened to watch this morning a YouTube video.
Yeah, by Lou Gottlieb, who was the founding guru of Morningstar Commune, which was famous for a while in the 60s and 70s.
Morningstar Commune.
Yeah.
And
Morningstar. It was also known, Morningstar. It was a commune for a while, then it became just free land. People just drifted in and out, lived there, without any kind of organization.
in the late 60s.
Well, see, it's my contention that my thought that
Starting out with contentions already.
Don't be so contentious.
A little early for contention.
well that the pandemic will it's one of the results will be that people want to gather together more.
Well, in this video, which I think it'd be interesting to put a link to, in this, it's just people understand it's a what do they say?
I had not seen it before, as a matter of fact. That particular video. So I just want to say I just had to punch it.
You don't endorse that
Of
product.
course not. And Lou would probably not endorse it. It's a product of its time.
Yes.
It's a product of his time. Sure, he's talking about LSD and all kinds of stuff. But he also what he's talking about, I think, is very relevant today. And that is more and more people aren't needing to work. And he talks about people dropping out, mechanization and industrialization and computers and all that. Robotics are taking over production. Yeah. People don't need to work. And we are in the midst of what's being called the Great Resignation. People just aren't working. And that's what he was talking about. What are people going to do? And it's easy to, talk smack about hippies and people should get a job and whatever. But what I had actually referred to early in the day is that in a lot of societies, traditional societies in Europe, traditional societies in third world countries, is that people have a lot more leisure time. And that's okay. And that's healthy. And you look at Jesus or Adam in the Garden of Eden or, Abraham. I get a sense reading scripture. A lot of these guys actually had a lot of time to think and sit around and talk.
Yeah, I get a little wary of leisure time, and let's take off time to have fun. And I would not, as a father, grandfather, or even a brother, say, well, you need to take off some time and have more fun. I mean, I think having time to reflect, having time to pray, having time to talk with other people. I mean, that
I didn't say have fun.
No. I'm talking just that term. No, it's the term leisure, which he used, and that would be something I would be careful. I wouldn't be promoting a community apart for leisure. But I hear what you're saying, and I think he was thinking that too, in terms of having time to think, having time to, and I think I know when I was there, that's what was I was, and people I found there were escaping a very pressured time in the city, or I had been in the army and I was troubled, and it was a time I could relax and just think about things and talk about things. Yeah, I see that. I think now I'm more concerned about community as a way to be with people of your ilk, and to resist a mixture with people who are definitely not of your ilk and that kind of thing.
Well, I think that happens naturally. And what sounds like Lou Gottlieb's sort of idea was you don't refuse anybody,
Right.
and you let people organically
Yeah.
associate, not with people that are walking lockstep with them, but people that have a common culture with, common understanding, common goals. And I think of Jude and I were thinking about that Bible school that we lived at, Pinecrest.
Oh yeah.
It was kind of like that, a place where people could go if they really had nowhere else to go.
Yes, and that was definitely the same kind of thing.
Sure.
Quiet time. You didn't have to work, and some people did have to work.
You don't have to work much. You could get along.
You
and
just get along
work in
because
the
it's
chow hall or whatever.
Lots of time for going to church, praying, reading your Bible, going to classes that weren't very hard, talking with people.
A lot of
it
music.
really was a quiet, and doing music.
Yeah,
lots of music. So it was really much of the same kind of thing,
but with a little bit more direction.
Yeah.
And a little bit more oversight. I mean, this is something I'd like to get into. That's why it's on my mind.
I think a lot of people are thinking more in terms of getting together. Now, the problem is, you say it's easy to get people together of the same ilk. What does that mean? And what ilk are we talking about? Because I got together. I was part of a community where we were all of a certain ilk. And that was, we were young, and had young families got together, but we weren't all on the same page politically or even theologically.
Sure.
There were certain things. Ecclesiology was the same. We wanted to
had a
worship
vision for
God.
how to
together in a
like
community, but it didn't quite work out the way.
Yeah, well, I think two answers to that. One is you got to just keep moving, and different iterations, things will either shake out or not. And I don't know though. I think about when I was in the Army, and I was forced together with people. There was quite a spectrum culturally, and it was really pleasant. Now it was contained, and it was just a bunch of young guys. But I don't know. I think there's a place for people of different backgrounds to get together if they have a common goal, and if they have some common understandings, some guidelines. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the more guidelines you have and the more structure you have, the less important is your common culture or your common the common background, common language, common religion,
mores, all that.
Yeah. If you have, like in the Army, I feel that is definitely the kind of intentional community where there's a lot of diversity because you have such a strict program,
right?
That you're doing, and so you know what's going on, and you can
expect
kind of
no
relax.
Expectations.
You kind of relax. Okay, when are we going to eat? When are we going to get up? All this stuff. That's all.
What you wear, all those things. I mean, it imposed its own culture.
And you tend to then, of course, do drift toward people of your age and of your culture and background,
interests.
And I remember in Vietnam, we had always had the machine gun squad. The machine gun squad was 100% black.
They just had their own scene.
They just had their own scene. They loved that. And they were good, and we trusted. But people just tend to, even though the structure was there, they tend to drift toward who they felt comfortable with.
Yeah, I wonder. You're saying with the pandemic and everything, I wonder if we're going to start to see, as we have a whole new wave, the Great Resignation. Also, the whole millennial detachment, the 2-car in a garage vision has faded as far as attachments to stuff, to place. So I think people could drift into intentional communities, commune. I don't know. I think one of the things that I'd like to work with is different paradigms of land ownership.
Ooh, say more.
Well, right now we have everybody having, their little lot and house, the suburban version. I happen to be in the mobile home park where you actually have kind of 2 layers of ownership. So everybody owns their own home, and in their home, they can smoke, they can paint it whatever color they want. It's their home. but they don't own the land, so they can move their home somewhere else. I think that's a crude experiment in different things. But imagine, say, a piece of land were owned as a trust or as an LLC, and after a certain amount of commitment, say after living there a year, you can own part of the land. You can say vote on how it's used or whatever, but it's still maybe semi-communal or
You know what? The number one difficulty with that, you probably know. What do you think the number one difficulty with that? Or what is the number one difficulty in these parks?
dogs.
I was going to say that.
Yeah. that is the biggest problem, because people do not have the same culture when it
Taste.
comes to
Yeah.
that, and we're discovering that in this little dog.
For instance, my affection for dogs is directly proportional to their distance from me. The farther away they are, the more I love them.
those Lassie movies.
Lassie.
But it astounds me.
Rin
There,
Tin Tin.
there are people that would let, and it's not just, I was going to say pets, but dogs in particular and cats. People will just let their cats go wild.
Yeah.
So
And
really,
everywhere.
to form an intentional community, all you need is strict idea of how your dogs are going to be, or
Animal
strict,
control.
strictly
Enforcement.
forbidden. Well, I think my community, they would just be strictly forbidden.
All
I know-
all animals strictly.
Oh no, goats are welcome.
Yeah, even if they eat up your blueberry bushes.
You got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet.
Well, that's what the dog people would say.
Right. Well, I mean, so that's why the thing is, what people don't, I think one of the things that everybody needs to remember is just there's different, we need different communities. You know, this is not a one size fits all.
Yeah, that's right.
It's okay. You want the
Yeah.
community that loves Dobermans or pit bulls, you start a community. And I'll go visit and I'll pet the pit bulls and
It
I'll
could be
pet,
neighboring communities.
right. And the you know, it's a question of integration, and people talk about the you know, the blender version versus the salad bowl version. I forget the analogy to use, but I think society is moving. They're realizing mixing everybody and everybody being together of all different types, it simply doesn't work.
Well, there's so many things that people have, like dogs and leaf blowers,
Leaf blowers,
that the pollution moves out of your
negative
yard.
externalities.
Your dog and cats especially. Dogs.
Well, the dog with the barking of the
the
dog.
barking of the dog, the
Mhm.
cats move out, and the leaf blower can
Leaf blowers.
pollute for blocks.
And
For
they
blocks.
do.
And they do.
Like
And so, but you
nuclear
think,
waste.
do you want to live in a community that has rules? No leaf blowers, no dogs, no practicing
Cats.
your saxophone outside.
Oh,
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
see,
No
I mean,
goats.
no. I mean, do you want to live in communities with rules?
right.
So I want to live in a community with my rules.
My rules.
I really do. I would love to have, and I'd love to set those rules. And I think that'd be good rules.
Good rules. Fine. I mean, I can already do today. I'm living in a community of your rules, and I'm pretty happy with them by and large. But I think that's going to happen more and more. But people need to wrap their minds around it, and they need to realize they're already living in a community with rules, and you know they might not like the rules. But if we could set up leaf blower free and have it privately done, though, so you don't have SWAT teams coming in.
Yeah.
This is and I got an argument on Twitter about this the other day because I have a lot of liberty-oriented friends,
Mhm.
and they were getting worked up about HOAs. And I said, whoa.
I saw that. Yeah.
What's that?
HOA is a homeowner association, and that's really what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about. And it seems so Nazi.
It
like,
does. It
but
seems
still,
Nazi-like. It seems horrible.
Still, if you're ever distressed because of things that have to be controlled, can only be controlled with rules that you understand.
Right.
What the HOA. But
Well, and the thing is, a lot of people are living under a government HOA, and they're enjoying all the benefits of it, right? So we have a dog catcher, and we have codes of what you can do with your yard and whatever. So they haven't thought, well, I want liberty. Oh, do you? I'm not sure you do. I want liberty from the state, but I want the liberty to be able to associate with neighbors.
yeah,
I
that's right.
do not want a rattlesnake farm next to my house.
That's right.
You know, I don't want a pet crematorium upwind, right directly upwind from me.
Right.
Well, how do you control for that? Well, you can either buy 1,000 acres, put your house in the middle of it, but that's one, not a great
not
option.
everyone can do that.
And two, as it turns out, it's kind of nice having neighbors.
Yeah.
You got to borrow an onion.
People tell me that.
That in theory, it's a sort of vague theoretical way. We all agree with that. So I think the answer is something like HOAs. The problem is they've gotten a bad name because usually, they have some Karen and she's telling you, you can't plant roses because the pollen or whatever.
Well, that comes back to the whole theory, the theory of law. And I have been thinking recently, don't you think that laws should be merely the publication or the
expression, the written
expression of social consensus? We're just expressing social consensus.
Well, that's what common law.
I mean, law should be
common law tradition
should not be the expression of the feeling of a small minority.
Right.
That's what law should not be, and that's what has troubled people for centuries. Whenever you get to autocrats, and in any kind of situation where just a small minority just rules and says this is the way things would be, and it always grates against people because, well, we're not like that. Nobody's really like that except you guys,
Sure.
But generally, if you have for floating through society, you find a place like we feel comfortable here. Pretty much, there's some things that I would like to have changed, but it's that just coming up with HOAs tend to. Somebody comes up with that. We don't want any American flags.
Right.
Flying. That was the most recent thing I heard. The guy flew an American flag and they made him take it down. Sure. Come on, how offensive can that be?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the common law tradition is an interesting blending of sort of culture and unofficial sort of mores but they've got to, you've got to have some kind of common understanding. And you got to have a mechanism that's trustworthy for processing that.
Right. What is the mechanism? So in an HOA, how do you influence the outcome of?
Right.
How do you influence the rules?
Right. And I think, there's different things that people talk about democracy as if it's tantamount to freedom, but 49% of people can be completely ignored in a democracy.
What about also organizations and governments that influence not by direct execution of laws, but by recommendation? Like somebody lets their grass grow too long, and the committee says that's not the way we do it, and you send somebody over and say, we don't want to tell you, I know it's hard, but the grass is really getting, and people are complaining. We just recommend that you get this.
We're
cut.
suggesting. I think
thing,
if you have a natural community, what you need to do is simply breed that kind of a culture where the older ladies and most trailer parks, there's always some older gal who's been there forever, who has kids and grandkids in there, and she will recommend in her own way, hey, Bobby, your friends drive really fast in the park, and that's not cool, but if you can set up an organic sort of way, and you could even codify it a little bit, maybe a monthly meeting, I don't know, but
so that works well. I guess the main technology has destroyed the thing that makes that easiest. As people can travel more and be part of a variety of communities and invade other people's communities with ease, it makes it harder and harder to enforce that sort of thing.
I feel like it's going to come full circle. So I think as communities evolve online, like Facebook anti-leaf blower league or whatever, they will eventually say, hey, maybe let's get together. And I think there's going to be some where the fracturing that the internet caused is going to cause a reorganization and a rebundling. This is something Balaji Srinivasan talks about, the technological process of bundling, then unbundling, and then rebundling. So you had CDs bundled, and then we had Napster and unbundled just to songs, and then you have Spotify and playlists, and it rebundles. And I do have some hope for that. That, you know, you think of Morningstar Ranch. Well, how do people find out about it?
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth in a particular, you know,
yeah.
grandmother didn't find out
Society.
about it.
No, society. Yeah.
Right. So all, you know, it was people who were on the road, and there was
Yeah.
a communication amongst them.
Exactly.
Hippies and fringe members of society, musicians and artists and that sort of thing. Well, all the internet is basically just one of the things the internet can
A
be
more powerful
is a
version.
cork board
Mhm.
for people like that to communicate. Well, you know, here's, you know, just a place to put.
But do they
bulletin
talk
board.
about? I mean, I don't get into that. So, I mean, do they talk about places that do this, or
Sure.
towns that are like this, and there's an artistic community somewhere? Or,
I think. what
Well, they
Paul's
set up
saying
their
is-
own communities dispersed,
Mhm.
like, you know, the
you know,
different-
okay, intellectual communities. But, I
Right.
mean, how does this translate into actual physical?
Well, I
communities?
think that's what I'm thinking, that maybe
Might happen.
That's
right
the
now
next
that's the next phase.
iteration. Yeah.
Because
would
there's so
be-
much. That's, I mean, what we're skirting around here is the problem of mobility.
Mm.
You know, there was a time when you had the less mobility, the more homogeneous culture you have.
Sure.
So you have traditional culture like the Pueblos or any Indian tribe. They didn't have mobility. They just didn't take their often, every now and then, but a family would move off and go somewhere else to do their own thing. But generally, they stayed together for generations, and they all began to dress the same way, talk the same way, same religion, same homogeneous culture.
Mm.
But we look at us. I
all over
mean,
the
you
place.
jump over here all over the place, you know. And so that's where the friction comes in. Is, like you said, invading other people's territory, you know, and bringing with them modes of living that we're not used to, or people are not used to. And, you know, what you are able to do on the internet is one thing, but do people actually follow that moving?
Will they reorganize? And I think it could be done by degrees. And I'm going to be trying some experiments in that. Maybe get some land, and hey, if you want to live in this certain way or whatever, why don't you come and camp out for a week or two,
See what it's
and
like.
see if we can get along.
Well, I think the catalyst for that is that there is I think there's an awakening now to the because so many people are forced into this. There were, because of the lockdown, what happened. There's an awakening to how empty online community can
Right.
be,
Okay.
and so
Because they had a little bit of a side thing when that was cut off. And it's
Right,
just me and my computer.
there was always the fantasy that we could do this completely digitally.
Yeah.
And then when we started doing it, we realized it's just not the
pretty
same.
hollow.
And there's
Hollow, yeah.
and there's a growing desire to call for
face to face.
face to face.
Well, yeah, I mean, any kind of conference, you look at like this last couple months ago, I was at the Homesteaders of America conference, sold out.
Mhm.
Pork Fest, Porcupine Freedom Festival, sold out. Like any of these things getting people together
Mhm.
is really selling out.
That
Because
people
people are
had
really interested.
forgotten before the pandemic, and this is sort of the thing I was thinking about, is people had forgotten the magic of being together in large
Right.
groups. That
Yeah.
It was
through
special. They took it for granted.
Yeah, took it for granted, and
Yeah.
and we've been woken up to the fact of the how rare and beautiful it really is. to
Yeah.
get
You,
together.
you wonder if things like, you remember the camp meetings of the early 1800s.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Over on the other side of actually, I don't know, I might have been a part of that. On the other side of the Appalachians. is where
Oh, it was
started.
on the really.
Yeah, it was
the
in
Mississippi
Tennessee,
River
Kentucky, and
Drainage, yeah.
southern Ohio. They began to have these giant meetings where people would come in and camp,
Hmm.
and they had revival services, and it was part of the Great Awakening,
That's what we need.
1840s,
Mm.
1830s, 1840s.
Hmm.
Some historian out there will correct me, but that was that, you know, people. So it wasn't just a bunch of people who wanted to be free, like a
Sure.
Burning Man, you know,
Sure,
to go
sure.
naked and smoke pot or whatever. No, these were Christians that wanted to be with other Christians, you know.
Or people who are curious about what these Christians are all up to. Because some people, I imagine.
Oh, I'm
were-
sure. Oh, yeah. What was the big deal going on?
Yeah.
And if they lived in these, remember what you can imagine what America was like in that area in the 1840s.
Pretty
Little
isolated
tiny
little
communities, little communities.
Yeah.
So if they heard something big was going on, come on, let's go and
Check it out.
camp out.
Family
Well,
vacation.
and maybe what you're saying is that in the wake of the pandemic, kind of the same energy. Hey, there's something going on. Let's go down there and be a part of it. Let's check it out. So I want to get something together.
Okay.
But I thought it'd be fun to have a little discussion about it.
Yeah.
It's neat to get
Yeah.
your take, having lived in this
In a
Morningstar commune.
Was it called an intentional community back then?
No, it was
Yeah.
just it was a place.
Morningstar
Well,
Rant. What was it called?
It was Morningstar Ranch, or Morningstar was all the commune thing. That's how he understood what level of society it was. It was a bunch of hippies, basically, hippies and people that were disoriented and kind of social outcasts, marginal people, had no place to go to, because you could live there for nothing.
Yeah.
They had to camp out because it was California, it didn't rain. So if you find a place to put out your bag, you could just sleep there. It was just that kind of place. And there was a lot, it was commune, it was communal in this sense. Everybody shared food and everything. Everything was shared. So, but it wasn't like a rule. It's just, that's the way
It just was a cultural community.
But there was no anybody say, well, this is the way we are. Come over here, we're having a meeting. It was none of that.
The only rule was
by
there
this
were
time,
no rules.
There were no rules.
Calvin Ball community.
We just it was like America must have been, before the government showed up, but the grocery stores had, so I mean,
So you
could
can
always
run out
go-
to the
you can always go
the
into
square,
town
the
and
square community and
buy something that
you get stuff. You buy something to eat. Cool. Well, thanks for joining us, and hope to keep you apprised of what actual experiments we may
That's right.
do in intentional community or living together or something.
Gathering.
Gatherings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big camp meetings.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Sounds good.
Peace.